Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, I want to thank Carol, as she's indicated that she may be a couple of decades older than me, but we met about a couple of decades ago. That's how long we've known each other. I've aged a lot more, getting gray hair in my beard, gray hair in my hair, but she looks basically the same. So I think I'm catching up to her, if that's possible. But she's a dear friend, a great activist for our community, and I've enjoyed working with her as well as a number of you in this room over the last couple of decades as we've tried to serve our community in a place where it's very difficult to survive. It's gotten harder and harder as the years have gone on here in Silicon Valley, here in the Bay Area, here in California. And oftentimes it's seniors that are facing those burdens more so than most others. In fact, it's seniors and it's young people, right? I mean, the most vulnerable populations to the economic hardships that we're seeing in our state. And so, speaking of being in more than one place at a time, right now I'm giving a keynote speech in Sacramento at the SCAN Foundation at their big summit they're having there. I'm doing it on video over there. And so I chose to be here with all of you and send out the video. But it speaks to the fact that there's advocacy happening every day around this state on issues that matter to seniors, on issues that matter for people with disabilities, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because we need the organization, we need the activism, we need the political wherewithal, and we need to let legislators know that these issues matter and that they can't ignore them, they can't vote against the interests of those that are simply asking to have a decent quality of life, particularly in their sunset years when they've worked so hard and contributed so much to our great country, to Silicon Valley. So many people in this room helped to build Silicon Valley in so many different ways, whether it's as teachers, whether it's as engineers, as builders. You know, Silicon Valley was created by the hands that are in this room, and we mustn't forget that. And so I actually just also came from a senior walkabout at Happy Hollow. Has anyone been there? So the last one, it's the last Thursday of the month. The last one for the year is going to be next month in October, the last Thursday. It's a free event, awesome event. If you haven't been, Happy Hollow is a park and zoo designed for young children. Once a month they have a senior walkabout, and it's awesome. Great event. And so make sure you try to go there next month if you're around for the Happy Hollow. And in about 20 minutes or so, I've got to go meet up with my dad and take him to the doctor. And so I'm someone, as many of you know, have seen my father and and seen pictures of him on Instagram and what have you, but we're very close. I try my best to take care of him, as busy as I am, and it's important for me to be with him to see the doctor this morning. So that's where I'm going after this. And so I want to speak for a moment before I get to the why senior vote matters as to some of the legislative victories we've had. In fact, what I'm going to be telling you is part of what's in the video that's going to the SCAN Foundation, but I want to tell you in person because as much as there's been challenges, I think we've had some successes the last year or two since I've been in the legislature. We have a very good Speaker of the Assembly, Anthony Rendon, who's been very supportive of our efforts to do more for seniors. And so one of the things we were able to do was successfully secure $3 million in the budget so the state can collect data on long-term support services through the California Health Interview Survey to better understand statewide need for services. Currently, California does not collect that kind of data. So why is that important? Well, when I go to the governor or I go to my colleagues and say, I want money for this program, or we need to have this program, but they say, well, it's going to cost X amount of money. You know, how do we know we have other priorities? Why are we going to focus on that priority? Now I'm going to have data to show them why we need those programs, especially with the new governor coming in. And certainly, I've actually had the conversation with Lieutenant Governor Newsom, and I think he would be very supportive of some of the initiatives to increase and boost funding for seniors. But what I also told him is that we're going to come at you with data, and that's why that $3 billion, although they call it budget dust. You know, we have a $200 billion budget in the state of California, but this is really important budget dust because it's going to get us the data to get a lot more resources for seniors. We restored the annual SSP cost of living adjustment for the first time since 2009. Wow. We all know that the current SSI SSP grant is inadequate for seniors to pay for housing, food, transportation, other necessities. And so although we were unable to bring our seniors on SSI, SSP to at least the federal poverty level, we were able to end the SSI, SSP cash out, and finally our state's SSI, SSP recipients won't go hungry. They can now access CalFresh benefits without losing some of their SSI, SSP benefits. So we didn't get everything that I've been fighting for the last 2 years, but this was huge. And I want to thank Dr. Arambula, Assemblymember Arambula from Fresno. He was just a champion on it and was able to get that cash out across the goal line. Finally, the legislature overwhelmingly passed AB 2233. So this is legislation to increase the assisted living waiver from approximately 3,700 slots to 18,500 slots. So, by the way, the assisted living waiver helps move those who are in skilled nursing facilities that don't need that level of care to a less expensive environment, such as assisted living facility or their own home with appropriate services. Right now, we know there are approximately 11,000 people living in nursing homes with low care needs. They don't need to be there. We need to continue to fight to increase access to services in the community, to enable people to avoid institutionalization and live in the setting of their choice, which also leads to an improvement in their health. I've gone to skilled nursing facilities, and the manager there will say, or the nurses there will say, no, that person doesn't need to be here. That person doesn't need to be here. We have nowhere else to send them. I'm trying to find a way to get them back home or get them into assisted living, a much less institutional setting. You know, skilled nursing, as important as those facilities are, they are in their institutional settings, their medical settings. You know, we don't want to have any of you in a medical setting if it's not necessary. And so I'm very grateful that AB 2233, on a bipartisan fashion, overwhelmingly passed the Assembly, the Senate. It's currently on the governor's desk. The governor has until Sunday to sign it. I encourage you all to let the governor know the significance of that this bill will have on the lives of those who need these services. So Kalra, please do whatever you can these next couple of days. AB 2233, this is a really important bill that's going to help a lot of people. And one of the last thing I want to mention on it, also, it updates some of the rules on assisted living facilities. For example, a lot of these rules were put in place in the 1980s. So, some of the rules include, well, you have to have a kitchenette in every room. Well, guess what? Some of the folks who are in assisted living, one of their limitations is they can't cook. So why do you have to have a kitchenette in every room? Why are you going to raise the cost? And so you have some of these 6-bed facilities that can't access assisted living waiver slots because of that archaic rule. And we also know that having a master kitchen and having the ability for folks to socialize with one another, cook together, eat together, is much better than having people stuck in their room, you know, eating by themselves on their bed. And so we're trying to update it so that more people will apply for these waivers. It's not just a matter of building more. There are facilities right now that can't even accept these waivers because they'd have to invest $20,000, $30,000 a unit to do it. They're not going to do that. So anyway, I just want to mention that because I figured that you all at least understand what I'm trying to do here. So again, contact the governor, AB 2233. And we also know that the problems confronting our seniors are only growing larger. I am committed now more than ever to reforming and improving our system. I've held 4 informational hearings throughout the state over the past year, and I've learned firsthand the struggle the California seniors are facing. No other chair has done that, gone out of Sacramento to hold 4 hearings. I did one in San Jose, San Diego, and we did 2 in LA, and I'm learning a lot from it. That assisted living waiver bill came from the hearing in San Diego. That's when I learned about the program. It became a bill after that. A lot of our bills, the SSI, SSP bills, come from these hearings because I get to hear from all of you because we come to you. We don't ask you to come all the way to Sacramento. And so it's great to really mobilize and energize the statewide movement. And then I want to talk for a moment about a master plan for aging. California is confronting an epic growth in its population of older adults. We need to make planning for this population a priority and set aside the resources to ensure that the programs and services are there to care for our loved ones. If we don't know where we are going, we certainly don't know how to get there. To this end, I'm hoping to lead the way with the next administration on crafting a master plan for aging that looks holistically at the needs of our population, whether healthcare, social services, transportation, financing, or housing, and looking at all of them, and then setting priorities for the next several years and how we will meet the needs of this population today and in the future. So that's something that's really important to me because we're always, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. Well, let's just fix this one issue here. Let's fix one issue over there. The senior population deserves to have a more comprehensive, compassionate conversation, especially as our aging population is growing. So I hope to do that by having a master plan for aging and then setting a goal over the next 5 years. This is what we need to do, and then now let's start writing bills and budget requests to make it happen. And, you know, today the legislature is younger and more diverse than it's ever been. But many are firsthand experiencing issues that come with an aging population, like me with my father. A lot of us that are in the legislature are having our parents that we're realizing how much of a burden it is on families, and more significantly, on those loved ones. They don't want to be a burden. My father says that to me all the time. At the end of the day, we have to, as a society, recognize that we are making it harder on families by not giving them the support they need. And so I want to speak the latter half of my talk here on why the senior vote matters. And we know seniors vote, and yet this is what surprised me the most in Sacramento. When people are campaigning, they're going after the senior vote. Vote for me, I care about seniors. And why are they doing that? Well, because seniors vote. But then they get into office, and I'm trying to move an agenda for seniors, and it's like crickets. It's like, wait a second, you just went after all these votes to get elected, and yet we're not doing the things we need to do to take care of them. This electorate that's showing up, that's showing concern, that's voting, you know, and has earned it, and we're not doing it. So that's what this is about. That's what the statewide movement is about, to really energize those that are seniors and care about seniors. While the growing number of seniors over 60, with the growing number of seniors over 60 in California, we do have tremendous political clout this election year. Seniors are the most likely voters in any election, as I just said, but especially a midterm election like the one in November. Yet, there are seniors who repeatedly vote against their own interests due to a lack of information, maybe being more isolated or getting their information from television, radio, online, misleading mailers funded by big corporations or rich individuals. And that's not just isolated to seniors, the voters in general being bombarded, right? 61% of citizens aged 65 and older voted in the November 2016 election, the best turnout of any age group. More than half of those aged 55 to 64 also cast a ballot. These are really tremendous numbers. People under the age of 45, which is not me anymore, unfortunately, people under the age of 45 are much less likely to vote. Just 37% of 25 to 44-year-olds made it to the polls in November 2016, and not even a quarter, 21% of the youngest citizens, aged 18 to 24, entered a voting booth in 2016, which it's unacceptable for all of us. We need to find a way to energize our younger people to vote. Here's a look at some of the reasons why senior citizens are more likely to vote than younger people, in my estimation. One is protecting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You have a vested interest in protecting the valuable benefits you receive and have earned from the federal government and state government. For many, these benefits are the only way that you're able to live with some measure of independence and dignity. These programs are on the top of the list for cuts and privatization by the GOP leadership every single year, motivating more and more seniors and those who depend on these programs to vote. I mean, they gave a $1.5 million tax cut to the wealthiest people on earth. And what are they doing now? Now their budget's already proposing a $500 million cut to Medicare alone. It happens every time. And yet, you know, we don't, and yet, again, seniors don't always vote in a way that's consistent to who's upholding their values. Less mobility. We know that voter registration process is another reason older people vote in greater numbers than young people. Every time a person moves to a new address, they must re-register to vote. Young people who forget or don't get around to re-registering their new address may be kept from voting. Older voters tend to be more stable. So that's a kind of common sense thing. Younger voters, they go off to college and they come back and get a job somewhere else. And you know, they get busy, they're raising their family and all that as they get a little older. So that's another issue. That's why in California we're making it easier than ever to register to the DMV. You don't have to pay for stamps anymore. You can register online. So we're making it as easy as possible just to get young people and all voters. We want to remove obstacles to voting, because ultimately I want to be held accountable. I want more of you to vote than less. And so we want to make sure that everyone has the easiest access possible to voting. More time, working age voters must often squeeze in a visit to their voting location early in the morning or on their way to work or later in the evening. Retirees don't necessarily face the same time crunch, although I know that the number of times my dad goes to see the doctor, it seems like he has a pretty full appointments book. But at the same time, more and more seniors vote by absentee ballot. Getting to the polls becomes a non-issue if you have disabilities or difficulties in driving, what have you. So we're making it easier for everyone, including seniors, by just being able to mail it from home and don't have to wait to pay for stamps and all. And a lot of folks don't know that you're legally required to give employees time off to go vote. But a lot of employees either don't know that or they just don't want to ask for it because they don't want to make it seem like they're just trying to take time off. But it's their legal right. And then, of course, the last thing I'll mention is social norms. Senior citizens are more likely to become longtime residents of their communities, may be influenced by friends and neighbors of the same age who are also voting. They watch the evening news more. With older folks, there's a norm to vote. I know that my father and his friends, they talk about what's going on politically a lot more than I even do with my younger friends being elected official, right? And so it just becomes kind of like the crowd you run with, the circle you have, you kind of do the same things. Well, seniors vote, so if seniors vote more, then you're going to kind of follow along with the crowd, right? And if young people don't talk about voting and don't vote, well, they're going to be less likely to vote. Seniors think of themselves as voters, and they care about being a voter. And so we have to really change that. And we're seeing more activism with young people, which is great. The March for Our Lives and other things we've seen in terms of addressing gun violence prevention, what have you. But I want to say one last thing, and it's about young people and about millennials. They have it really hard right now. It is really hard coming out of college with six-figure debt. We know how expensive homes are. I know that sometimes millennials are kind of criticized or made fun of, because they have to go back and live with mom and dad. They don't have many choices. It's hard. It's really hard right now. Not that it wasn't hard. When I say that, sometimes I get folks that are my age or older and say, well, it wasn't easy for me. I'm not suggesting it was easy for any of us. But I will tell you that, if you went to college in the 60s, 70s, or even into the 80s here in California, it was almost free. That's not the case anymore. When my family first came here, I was born in Canada, we came here in 78, and we were able to buy a home right away. You can't do that coming out of college now. And because we were able to do that, what did that do? It built equity for my family. It then gave them a foundation, right? And I just say that because I love seeing young people and seniors get along. Because at the end of the day, you have the same issues. And in many ways, government ignores, whether it's student debt or whether it's seniors having to live on a smaller and smaller benefit check. Either way, you're all being squeezed at either end, right? And so I mention that because I think you have the opportunity to engage not just your children, your grandchildren. Start talking about these things. Talk about voting. Talk about how hard it is for them. Try to have some sympathy for what they're going through, as you certainly want them to have sympathy with what you're going through. I think that's how we can connect with younger voters, to let them know we care, that we're listening, that we understand that it's not easy for them right now, and that we get it. We get that it's harder to start a family. Young people aren't even starting families anymore, they're having children well into their 30s. Part of it is personal preference, but the majority of it is because of financial issues. And so, if you don't have grandkids and you want grandkids, then we have to do things to make it easier for young people, right? so that could be some personal interest there. So, I just think that there's a lot more in common that we have. Multi-generationally, I'm kind of in between. There's a lot more in common that we have than we don't. And so let's not feed into the seniors or some millennials and all that stuff. Let's actually encourage us to work with one another. And so so really we got to vote. In terms of the actual number of older people who cast ballots, California tops the list with 2.5 million people age 65 and older who voted in 2016. That's incredible. 2.5 million. We need to get more of our senior agenda passed in the legislature. You know, it's really, there's no excuse that we can't get more done. And so I'm going to keep fighting, certainly, to push for more and more as long as I'm in the legislature. As the aging population continues to be the fastest growing part of California's population, we know the numbers expected to grow. Seniors will have a tremendous impact on the outcome of the November 2000 election. Just in a few weeks, ballots will come out in a couple weeks at the local, state, and national level. This is going to continue for many, many years to come. So if you want to be sure that Californians vote for candidates and for policies that will support a more just and equitable quality of life for seniors, people with disabilities, and working families, we need to engage and educate seniors as a top priority. That's where you come in. That is what Kalra's Seniors Vote program is all about. And I'd like to let you know, just like I mentioned, I'm doing a keynote right now in Sacramento on a video. There are others that are meeting and talking about these same things. We have to unite regionally, we have to unite the organizations, so that when we're advocating on a budget issue, and I think that it was very successful this year. We had great budget results, as I detailed earlier, but that was because all of you and many like you around the state stood up and demanded that they be represented. And so we have a great opportunity. I really appreciate Kalra and everybody in this room for being part of the solution, for being the leaders. You're the ones that have to drag your friends to the polls, drag your grandkids to the polls. It's going to be you, because there's no one else. Like, I don't think other folks are going to do it, because I think that's what happens a lot in our democracy. The complacency is like, well, you know, yeah, we need to organize and we need to get people to show up to vote, but you know, someone else is working on it. Oh, I saw Carol the other day; she's working on it. We'll let Carol do it, right? Carol needs help. Every one of you need help. So I'm here to help you. Please help me as we go into the next year and continue to push for a seniors agenda, as we continue to push for more money for the services that you deserve and have earned. And let's not stop fighting. So are you all ready? Let me see. This November 2018. Are you guys ready to vote?
Yes!
Right? Are you ready to get your entire family, from your 18-year-old grandkid to your spouse, everyone to vote, right?
Yes!
Talking about it with your family?
Yes!
Right? We got to do it. And that's how we're going to make sure that the seniors' voices are heard in California. So thank you all for what you do, and let's keep fighting. Thank you.